Okay, no?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So today we'll be discussing about the fifth step of Ashtanga Yoga, that is Pratyahara. And two sutras are dealing with this concept of Pratyahara. Sutra 54 and Sutra 55 of chapter 2. So in chapter 2, there are in all 55 sutras. So today will be the concluding session for sadhana part. Now these two sutras which are dealing with Pratyahara, they read, स्वविषया संप्रयोगे चित्तस्य स्वरूपा अनुकार इवेन्द्रियाणाम प्रत्याहार. And 55th sutra says, ततः परमावश्यते इंद्रियाणाम. Now if we translate them in Hindi, स्व विषय के साथ असंयुक्त होने पर इंद्रियों का जो चित्त स्वरूपानुकार होना होता है वही प्रत्याहार है. So when the senses are not connected to their objects and they take the form of chitta itself as if, when that happens, that state is known as pratyahara. So it means in pratyahara there is a disconnection with the objects of senses and the senses get connected to the mind and they take the form of the mind. That means whatever is there in the mind, senses just follow that. So when such a state is attained, now this definition is very important. And then when this kind of disconnection with the object is occurring, where the senses are able to take the form of chitta, Ivendriyanam pratyahara, then what happens, that pratyahara is known as tatah paramavashyate indriyana. From that pratyahara, complete mastery over the senses comes. So परमावश्यते इंद्रिया, परम वश हो जाती है इंद्रिया. इसका मतलब there are different form of pratyaharas, there are different pratyaharas apart from this in which the indriyas do not come under control, so they will not constitute yogic pranayama. Now this is what this sutra reads. So when there is a disconnection of indriyas with the objects and the indriyas are taking the form of chitta, that constitute pratyahara, and from that what comes is the mastery, the total control over the senses. So now when we look at our day-to-day functioning, what happens is that right from our childhood, unless a person has been brought up in a very good circumstances, lucky circumstances, where he has been taught to turn the indriyas away from the senses, most of us are taught to use the senses as much as we can. तो आंखों का इस्तेमाल करो, कानों का इस्तेमाल करो, नाक का इस्तेमाल करो. So right from the word go, right from our childhood, the training also is such that we are constantly using the senses in knowing the external world. So as if the entire consciousness we have is directed towards the external world. We are trying to connect with the external world. We are trying to know, we are trying to make meaning of the external world. But then this possibility of turning within or stopping this has never been taught. And by way of some chance, we can develop this habit of stopping some senses, but otherwise it is very difficult. Because that is how the world is made. The senses are always moving outward. And consciousness is always outward directed. And if you remember, when we discussed about Purusha, when we discussed about the samadhi and other things. Particularly in chapter 1, when we talked about Tada Drashtu Swarupe Avasthanam, Yogas Chitta Vritti Nirodha, that time we had gone in great detail. And we saw, and later on when we were discussing Sutra 6 of chapter 2, that time, and again when we were discussing Sutra 17 of chapter 2, that time we had covered in great detail as to what constitutes experience and what lies in that experience, how we are supposed to make use of that experience to understand not only the external world but also what is making it possible for us to know the external. Now, in this process of knowing the external world, all the time the consciousness is directed outward, and then our knowledge is in the form of I am knowing this, I am knowing that, I am enjoying this. I have so many friends, I have a car, I have a bungalow, I have property, I am looking beautiful, others are respecting me, others are, so all the time, all the efforts are in the direction of knowing the external world and making external world more favorable to our liking. That is what is happening most of the time. Now here we have to understand this pratyahara. Pratyahara means pratyahara. Why it is pratyahara? So in a way, pratyahara is equal to yoga. If we look at the definition of yoga in Sutra 2, yogas chitta vritti nirodha. So you see here we had discussed this also, that in entire world there is no other discipline apart from yoga which is asking us to stop the mind to be able to come to face with the reality. In every other system you will find the mind is used, the logic is used, the intellect is used, the buddhi is used, senses are used, and they are all the time directed outward, and all the understanding is mostly at the level of intellectual understanding. Whereas yoga is asking us, stop the vrittis. If you stop the vrittis, then you will be able to see what is behind the vrittis. Because as long as the vrittis are going on, you will not be able to see what is making it possible for the vrittis to go on. How the vrittis are arising. This will not be known. So we will be happy at the vritti level, and we are seeing that in world, thousands and thousands of people, they just live like that. Millions of people are there, they just live like that. Hardly anybody is there who thinks in terms of, okay, my senses are able to perceive this, my mind is able to experience everything, connect with the external world. But who is it which is connecting? Who am I? Or I say that I'm connecting, but who is this I? Very few people will ask this question, and yogis are interested in that kind of thing. So right at the beginning, Maharshi Patanjali says that if you want to know the truth about yourself and about your mind and about your reality, then you have to stop the vrittis. So if you stop the vrittis, then you will come. Now, so again we have to understand what are vrittis. Vrittis are the means by which mind survives, mind lives. Our mind, our buddhi, our chitta lives in vrittis. If the vrittis are not there, the chitta is not there. How do we know that we have a mind? We know we have a mind, we know we have a chitta because the thoughts are there, because the vrittis are there, the cognitive states are there. And cognitive states, we are cognizing, we are perceiving them, we are knowing them. I know what I am doing right now. I am eating, I know what I am eating. I'm sitting, I'm talking to you. So I'm knowing all these thoughts are there. And in this, the mind is living. So mind is thriving and living only on the basis of vrittis which are there. If the vrittis were not there, the mind will have to stop. If the mind will stop, then perhaps what is making the mind run, that will be available to us. So that is as far as the theoretical understanding goes. Now, same thing is happening in Pratyahara. In Pratyahara, we are all the time using the senses. Nobody has asked us to stop the senses. Now here Patanjali is telling, stop your senses and let your senses go to the mind. Let not the senses draw the mind outward, but let the mind carry your senses and to itself. So that is what is suggested. That means, like the vritti nirodha here, the sense perception has to stop. The connection with the vishayas have to stop. So this is known as Pratyahara. Ahara is what? Food. Food is what sustains us, sustains our life. So what is the food of Chitta? Chitta Vritti is the food of Chitta. And what is the food for Indriya Manas? How mind is surviving? Again, the Vishayas are there, because Vishayas continuously, eyes are looking at something, ears are hearing something, something or the other is being constantly perceived throughout the day. That is happening. And on the basis of that, the mind is continuously functioning and all the vrittis are arising. So in a way, stopping this connection of Indriyas with the Vishayas, it is very close to yoga. So that way we have to now Pratyahara. Ahara is when the Indriyas having various sense objects. The sense objects, sense stimuli are the food for Indriyas. So Indriyas thrive on that. The eyes, they can discern. So the more they are able to use the visions and the forms, the more proficient they become in determining what the external form is. Same way the ears are listening to the stimuli called sound. So we can distinguish between so many sounds. They say that normally you see smell is also again very powerful. All the five indriyas are powerful, but in terms of sounds, human's ear can discern so many variety of sounds, because that kind of sensitivity is there, and that comes from the proficiency. So our senses have become proficient. So you stop the food to the senses. That is what is pratyahara. So instead of providing food to the senses, you don't provide food to the senses. Now it is not that only yoga has recognized the value of this. A person who has been listening to sound for continuously long time, he may go to the extent of becoming really disturbed, and somehow he wants to stop listening to the sounds. And when the sounds are stopped, it provides a big relief. So silence provides a big relief to the mind when the ear is stopped from listening to the sounds, or when there are no sounds. Same way, you might have experienced watching television for a long time, sitting on computer, working on computer for too long. After long hours of working, we feel like we have to close our eyes and we don't want to see anything. That is what is happening. So there is an advantage in shutting off the senses, but that is very temporary. We do that. We sometimes, after listening to so many sounds, we want to just close the windows and we want to sit quietly. But after 5, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, when the senses gain back their energy, we again want to indulge in the sounds. It is only temporary respite. It is only temporary relief. And then again, we are interested in listening to the sounds. And this doesn't stop at all. So, when we talk about, we had also discussed it earlier. At Yoga Institute, we learn a technique called Yoni Mudra. Now, precisely, Yoni Mudra is a Pratyahara technique. In Yoni Mudra, what we are learning is practice of Pratyahara. So, when we are closing the senses, these are not actually closed, because we are putting thumbs on the ears like this, and the ears get closed completely. We are putting our finger on the eye. We are putting our finger on the nostrils. So the nostrils are not smelling, the eyes are not seeing, the ears are not seeing. But does that actually happen? It can happen only when we are interested in withdrawing. If it is done with understanding, if we are interested in listening to the sound, then even with closed ears, we will strive, we will work hard to listen to the sound. Or even, the sounds will come and we will just discern what sounds are there. And after practice of Yoni Mudra, we will be able to tell that, okay, these are the sounds. That means we were listening to the sounds and we were not doing Pratyahara. So Pratyahara techniques are there in yoga. But now what happens is that, as I told you, many systems of the world, they have expressed the need for training the senses. Now, training the senses, most of, in terms of psychology, if we talk about psychology, talking about training the senses, they will say train the senses to discern more. That means they will increase the appetite of the senses. Now, we are not talking about that. We are talking about cutting the sense stimuli so that the senses are not used. So the senses can withdraw. Now that kind of thing, that kind of discipline is also there in spiritual discipline all over the world. These kind of things are being practiced. So from that point of view, when we look at the techniques, various techniques are there. For example, fasting. Now, what is fasting? Fasting is regulating the tongue. Yeah, that is a very common kind of thing which we try to regulate. It is connected to appetite also, but at the same time, it is connected to the tongue also. So several types of fasting is there in every religion, in every spiritual discipline. There are fasting methods, and people do fasting for various reasons. You know, as a religious dictate, but hardly you will find that anybody is practicing this from the point of view of controlling the mind, understanding the mind, going deeper into the self, and creating that self understanding. Very few such systems are there. Otherwise, it is just only to regulate, to strengthen the will, or maybe it is a religious way, as a sankalpa it is done, or as a religious practice, as a ritual it is done. So various methods are there, and these methods have been, kind of listed here. As we saw, Patanjali has gone into great detail, and what Patanjali has left out, Vyasa has provided in great detail. If you recall, when we discussed about ahimsa, so ahimsa simply means not hurting others. But we saw later on that Patanjali has gone into great detail and tells us, don't just think that if you are not hurting somebody physically yourself, that is what is ahimsa. But ahimsa has got many shades, and hinsa has got 81 types. So in Sutra 33 and 34, when we discuss this idea, 81 forms of hinsa. So we indulge in violence in 81 different ways. And somebody said that along with the lobha, krodha, moha, the Jainas also include mana in that. So lobha, krodha, moha, and mana. So if we include mana also in the list of Patanjali, then the hinsa will become of 120 types. Instead of 81, it will be more than 100 types it will become. So you can add 21, maybe more. Now you see that kind of analysis is there in Vyasa. So here also in Sutra 55, Vyasa has very beautifully said that what constitutes Pratyahara. So there are divergent views about the Pratyahara. But then we have to here understand the term Vishaya before going into that. So Swavishaya Samprayoge. So what are the Swavishaya? Swavishaya means eyes have got, what is the Vishaya of eyes? The various kinds of forms, visions, colors, beautiful sights, beautiful scenery, all that will constitute the Vishaya for the eyes. Same way somebody might be interested in music. So various kinds of sounds might be the subject matter of the sense called ear. So ears are always thriving on the sounds, and sounds are of different variety. Person may get interested in sounds and he may pursue this for lifelong. That is a possibility for the people who are interested in music. Then there is a test. So people are interested in test, and they will go to any extent to develop new kinds of tests, and they will want to experience newer and newer tests. We have discussed this earlier also when we were talking about food, that people are there. If a new restaurant is opened, immediately they will visit the new restaurant to see what kind of dishes are there. Some people travel from suburbs to city, to VT or Churchgate, just to taste some food. So just for eating something, they will travel 2 hours, travel 2 hours back. 4 hours they will travel for just having an experience of some food item they are interested in. Now, to that extent, it can go. So food is the Vishaya, or taste is the Vishaya of tongue. Same way the tactile sense is there. We buy different textures of clothes. We buy different things which are satisfying from the point of view of sense of touch. And smells are there. So we know that, Channel 5, and there's a big industry of scents and fragrances. It's a multi-millionaire kind of multi-billion industry, size of industry, where the scents are made and they are applied. People don't venture out without applying senses. So these are the sense stimuli which are vishayas of the indriyas. Now, if we can stop these vishayas, then perhaps we can understand the significance of the term pratyahara. So, as I was telling you, pratyahara is practiced in many ways in all religions, all disciplines. Pratyahara is practiced. So, Vyasa has captured 5 different points of view. Because when we talk about pratyahara, now we all sitting here and listening to what is being discussed, we are exposed to the yoga ideas, so we may very calmly receive what is being told, and we may just accept what is being told. But imagine if this kind of pratyahara was being discussed to a person who was not exposed to yoga, or maybe you are talking to your colleagues who are in your office, and you say that everybody should practice pratyahara. Immediately there will be a retaliation. What is the need of pratyahara? अरे भगवान ने आंखें दिए, देखने के लिए दिए, देखो, एंजॉय करो. भगवान ने लाइफ दिए खाने के लिए, पीने के लिए, एंजॉय करने के लिए. व्हाई यू वांट टू थिंक इन टर्म्स ऑफ स्टॉपिंग द वृत्तिस? Why you are stopping your senses from working? What is the need for that? Why should we stop? So these are the kind of reactions we will get when we talk about pratyahara. But here we know that it is a part of Ashtanga yoga, which is the highest kind of spiritual practice recommended by Patanjali. So in that, what are the divergent viewpoints? So people will justify somehow. They, even if they are convinced that it is necessary to control the senses, it is necessary to regulate the senses, then also there will be a lot of argument. So people will find shortcuts. People will find devious ways of fulfilling their sense stimuli, fulfilling their cravings for the taste and the smell and the vision. So various views are there. So there are people who will say that if one is not getting attached to the sense objects, then it is all right to indulge in the senses. So suppose if you are eating, if you are drinking, if you are smelling, if you are hearing, to if you are not getting attached to it, if raga is not being created, then it is all right. So that is the justification. So, then you will find many people saying that for many years I have been doing that, but I am not hooked to it. The problem is that when you get attached to things, it creates vyasana. Vyasana means habit, craving. So very easily the craving is created, but they deny that. The thing is that the moment you experience something which is agreeable to the mind, which is likable, which is pleasure giving, automatically raga will be created. And if the raga is created, now you are hungry and you are eating gulab jam. Tell me what will be the effect? No matter what the mind is thinking and no matter what the philosophical thinking is, you are hungry and you are eating something tasty. What will happen? Definitely you are going to like it. It is a very pleasurable experience. And whenever you remember that hunger and whenever you remember that pleasurable experience, we crave for that. Okay, let me have it again. So this is the way habit is formed. And what is vyasana? Vyasana is that which takes our mind away from the real thing, or which takes our mind from the correct thinking, and it leads the mind to wrong thinking and wrong actions. That is what vyasana is. So they say that as long as your indulgence in sense organs and sense pleasure is not creating any vyasana or habit or binding, it is okay to enjoy. So now each one of us have to really decide whether it is a good argument or it is a bad argument. And then vyasana ki baat aati hai, to I have often given this one example. When I was very young, I was going to college. First in schools itself, I had started reading one magazine, Hindi magazine used to come, Dharm Yug. It was published by Times of India Group, and Dr. Dharamveer Bharti, the famous writer, was the editor of Dharm Yug magazine. So I used to read that, and then there used to be comic strips in that. And there was to be a newspaper also in which there was this cartoon strip which used to come. It was called, the creator of that cartoon was Abid Surti, and the title was Dabbuji. Some of you will remember. याद है डब्बूजी बोल के एक कार्टून आता था मैगजीन्स में और न्यूज़पेपर्स में. तो वो मैंने पढ़ा था डब्बू जी का कार्टून. तो कोई व्यक्ति डब्बू जी को बोलता है, डब्बू जी सिगरेट मत पिया करो, आदत लग जाएगी. सिगरेट मत पिया करो, आदत लग जाएगी. तो डब्बू जी इज आंसरिंग, अरे पिछले 25 साल से पी रहा हूं, अभी तक आदत नहीं लगी है. नाउ दिस इज व्हाट इज हैपनिंग, यू सी. this I remember it because this cartoon captures the spirit of those people who say that नहीं नहीं मेरे को तो कुछ आदत नहीं लगती है, मैं तो इंडल्ज करता हूँ, मेरे को कुछ फर्क नहीं पड़ता है. So it is the argument which is really hollow argument. We know that when we are indulging in sense perception, then they have got certain repercussions, they have got certain impact, they create certain sanskaras. So this is the first argument which is given. The second argument is there that one can indulge in permissible objects, or whatever is permitted by whom? Permitted by the society and permitted by the Shastras. By Shastras, they mean the religious Shastras. So there are set of people who will say we can indulge in the sense perceptions and enjoying the sensory objects as long as our religious scriptures are approving of it. Now again, you can understand this is the argument which is again based on not the right thinking and not logical, for the simple reason that if killing is not a desirable thing, if killing goes against the basic tenet of yoga, which is ahimsa, then whether you religiously kill or you unreligiously kill, killing is killing. So if one is indulging in killing the animals for one's own eating, indulging in non-vegetarian food, it is necessary that we kill the animal. So, because our shastras are, some people will say on a religious day we sacrifice. And this is not an old practice, this is not a new practice. In India, this is a very old practice. Even thousands of years back, they will sacrifice a bull or they will sacrifice some other animal to appease the god, and it will be part of the ritual. Now, yoga has got a different point of view. So your religious dictums are there, but there also you will find that the violence is taking place, and in a way it is indirectly indulging into the sense perceptions. वहां पे भी एक instance याद आता है. Few years back, there we are staying, there's a family known to us, and now incidentally Ganpati festival is going on, so it becomes all the more relevant. Shravan got over, and now Ganpati has started. So there are some people in Maharashtra. I'll not talk about other parts of India because I don't have much experience of the other parts. But in Maharashtra, I have seen that the hardcore non-veg eaters, they also will stop eating non-veg in the month of Shravan. So in Shravan, they will not eat. And for some people, Shravan will end as soon as the Shravan will end, they will start eating. But for some people, Shravan extends right up to Ganpati. So Ananta Chaturdashi is the last day for their fasting. So beginning with Shravan till Ananta Chaturdashi, they will not eat non-veg at all. But as I told you, I was knowing this family, and they used to have Ganpati at their home. So last day of Ganpati, when they will go for Visarjan, I remember my wife told me that what happened is, the big family was there. So all the members of the family went for Visarjan. And one member of the family went to buy non-vegetarian food. So when everybody came back from Visarjan, in the night time, they had their party of non-vegetarian food. There was such an eagerness that one of the persons skipped the Visarjan process and he went for buying non-veg. Now you see, this is also a kind of control. 1 month, more than 1 month, they have controlled their senses, they have controlled their tongue, they have controlled their sense of taste. But they are eagerly waiting when it will get over. So yeah, I have often seen many people complaining, "Pata nahi kab sawan khatam hoega." And then we will be able to drink and we'll be able to eat, we'll be able to enjoy. Now you see, this kind of upwas or this kind of control may not be very beneficial. For the religious sake, for a formality sake, for a ritual, for the purpose of ritual, it is okay. One, this is also beneficial. I will say this is also very beneficial because to that extent, that much killing is less. You know, if 1 lakh, 2 lakh, 3 lakh people are not eating non-veg for entire month, so many animals are saved. So much violence is cut down. So in a way, it is desirable. But from the personal point of view, from the growth point of view, how far it is beneficial to the individual, that also has to be taken into account. So here yoga is interested in absolute thing. So it is not thread bearing, where analyzing what it entails when you say that it is okay to eat or it is okay to indulge when it is not causing any habit, or it is okay when the religious dictates are there and one can indulge in according to the shastras, one can indulge, but shastra also may be supporting a wrong thing. This nobody thinks about. So perhaps this is the reason that later on, most of the people said that no, it is absolutely wrong to have non-vegetarian food. Now this is a debatable. I'm just expressing the points of view which are available with different people and the kind of arguments they give. So from that perspective, we are talking about. And there are another set of people, so-called maybe even yoga students. They will say, no, when I feel like eating, I eat. I'm not habituated to it. So I just voluntarily indulge, and then when I want to stop, I stop. This is another argument which is given by some people. Now we can understand that how far this kind of argument can hold water. It is not possible, as I said. The external world, the material objects, the sense stimuli or the vishayas, they have got a peculiar way of affecting our mind through the senses, and nobody can escape that. We may falsely believe or we may self-deceive ourselves in thinking that no, nothing is wrong or nothing wrong is happening to me, but then the impact is there, the effect is there, and the consequences are there. So that much one has to be aware of. And there are again those people who say that as long as it is not creating राग द्वेष, अपने द्वेषों को जब तक बढ़ाता नहीं है, राग नहीं बढ़ा रहा है, तब तो वो इंडल्ज करने में कोई हर्ज नहीं है. Even the so-called religious sects, they will indulge in this kind of, if it is just as a part of religious ritual, then it is fine. But if there is a secret lurking of craving and desire, then automatically it becomes. And then finally, there is a great sage, great yogi. His name was Jagishavya. Some names of the great yogis have been given in Vyas Bhashya. So here, like Panchashikha was there. Jagishavya was another one. Deval is there. Asit is there. So some names are there. Now here one name comes, Jagishavya. So Vyasa has quoted Jagishavya's opinion. Now Vyasa is almost 1700, 1800 years old. If we go according to the modern scholars, it could be older also. But roughly 17 to 1800 years back, Vyasa has quoted Jagishavya as an authority on yoga. So what is the opinion of Jagishavya? Jagishavya says that when this break of contact with the sense stimuli comes from understanding, from genuine vairagya, and then mind decides to withdraw, the senses will just follow the mind. Wherever the mind will go, the senses will go. Senses will not be able to draw the mind out towards objects. Last week I was sharing with somebody that I went for a walk, and then before reaching, suddenly on Vivid Bharati there was a beautiful Rafi song, and as I stopped my car, there was another favorite song of mine which was running on the radio, and I felt like stopping and listening to that whole song and then going for a walk. Then I realized that that will not be the right thing. So immediately I switched off the car. But this is what is happening most of the time. If we are attached to some sounds, then what happens is the moment we will hear those songs or those sounds, our mind will be drawn towards them. And then somehow that weakness will come and we will, and many times with yoga students, this happen. We come from office, we are hungry, and we have decided that we are going to go home, take wash, and we are going to do our asanas, and then we are going to sit in meditation. But the moment we enter the house, there is a beautiful fragrance coming from the kitchen. And the hunger is there. Whole day we have been out. The hunger is there. So all the resolve of doing our yoga practices is gone. All the resolve of our doing our meditation is gone. We said, जाने दो, कल करेंगे. अभी तो भूख लगी है. So we immediately start eating. Now see this. These are some of the examples. These are practical examples which we experience day in, day out. So this is how senses are all the time drawing us out. गाने का आवाज आया तो अरे ये गाना सुन के बाद में बात करता हूँ, रुको रुको अभी बात मत मत करो, मेरे को ये गाना सुनने दो. ऐसा हम लोग बहुत बार करते हैं, नहीं रुक जाओ, अभी 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 कुछ नहीं, मुझे ये सुनने दो पहले. तो दिस इज द effect of sensory perception and the vishayas. These vishayas can draw us out. Here Jagishev is saying that no matter what kind of vishayas are there, if you resolve that now my senses will stop and they will follow the mind, that means they will follow the mind. And he has given a very beautiful example. What is that beautiful example? He says, like the honeybee, honeybee, there's a queen bee and all other worker bees are there. So peculiarity of these honeybees is that wherever the queen bee will go and sit, all the other bees will start following the queen bee. So here it has been equated, the mind has been equated and senses have been equated to these bees. So mind is like the queen bee and all other senses are like other bees. So wherever the queen bee will go, the other bees will follow. Same way, wherever the mind will be engaged, the senses will follow the mind. So senses will not have the capacity to draw the mind out. That is the real pratyahara. So that means the mind has to be trained, and this cannot come from the external enforcement. Because if external enforcement was the practice of yoga, then there are hardcore criminals who are put in the jail and they are living on very minimum kind of food and minimum and tasteless food they are living on for years together. But does that constitute pratyahara? Does that bring any change in their mental setup? Does that bring change in their mental state? Because it is enforced kind of denial. So we may also deny ourselves. We may say that for 2 days I will not do this. And to being egoistic, I want to prove my point, we can do that. But had it been done from the point of view of this will help me to gain a certain amount of peace, it will give me certain amount of control over my senses, then perhaps it will become desirable. But otherwise, any kind of enforced pratyahara, it is fruitless. So here what Jagishavya is trying to tell us, that pratyahara has to come out of understanding. You have to be really disinterested, and that resolve has to be there, why you are doing it, that purpose has to be clear. That is why it is 5th step of Ashtanga Yoga. अष्टांग योग में जो अभी ये बहिरंग खत्म हो रहा है, ये 5वीं स्टेज के साथ में बहिरंग योग खत्म हो रहा है, where the efforts are involved. So here we are putting efforts, but the effort is there with right understanding. See, with asana, the body has become steady to a certain extent. With pranayam, the mind has become very calm. The mind has become concentrated. But in spite of that, the disturbance may come from the sense objects. So now here we come to this idea that why there is a need for pratyahara. Why we have to control the senses, and what is the need of pratyahara. If the pratyahara is not practiced, then higher practices of yoga are not possible at all. One will not be able to practice fixity, that is dharana. Dharana cannot be practiced with distracted mind. If the mind is getting distracted with the senses again and again, where is the question of getting established in dharana? धारणा में तभी हम जा सकते हैं जब सेंसर्स के ऊपर थोड़ा कंट्रोल आ जाएगा, तभी हम उसमें जा सकते हैं. So that is why we have to understand the desirability of this pratyahara is because, as we see that if we freely indulge in the sense organs, with the sense objects, then what happens is it will increase the appetite for the world. We will continuously want to enjoy, and as a result, we will be led to lot of actions. The actions will have consequences. The consequences could be in the form of sanskaras, and then they will again strengthen our appetite for the pleasures, and we may go on seeking pleasure all the time and pay very heavily for it. So the first effect of non-discriminatory indulgence in the sense objects is that it increases the appetite for the world. तो संसार चक्र है वो चलते रहेगा, क्योंकि they will give rise to desire. अब desire अगर हम देखेंगे तो desire से फिर आगे हर चीज उत्पन्न हो जाती है. गौतम बुद्ध का जो दूसरा आर्य सत्य है, there is pain and the pain has a cause. What is the cause? Cause is the desire. Same thing Patanjali is also telling us, that if we indulge, then there will be desire, and the desire is there, then the pain will be there, then the sansar chakra will go on. So when we talk about this sansar chakra, as I told you that in chapter 4, Aranya has given the sansar chakra, which is running on 6 spokes, and at the axle is the avidya. So dukkha, sukha, raga, dvesha, papa, punya, these are the 6 spokes of the wheel on which the entire world is moving. We can look at our life cycle also, and from today's happening also we can understand this, that whatever we are doing, if the motive is raga and dvesha, then we are increasing the speed of sansar chakra, or we are perpetuating the flow of this sansar chakra. Because if we are acting for raga, मुझे ये चाहिए करके, मुझे desire है करके, मुझे कुछ craving है तो मैं ये करूँगा. The moment we do it, then we have pleasure or we have pain, depending on what kind of action it is. और राग या द्वेष create हो गया तो again we will indulge in action, and when we are doing action, हमारे हाथों या तो पाप होगा या तो हमारे हाथों पुण्य होगा. For seeking pleasure, for fulfilling our desires, when we are trying to fulfill our desires, we indulge in actions through which we are doing good to others or we are doing harm to others. Either way, even if we are doing good to others or even if we are doing harm to others, there are consequences. We are getting bound by the karma, and this way the cycle is going on. As long as we are guided, that's why kleshas are so important, because all the time kleshas are providing motivation. सो राग और द्वेष की वजह से हम एक्शन करते हैं, एक्शन के संस्कार बनते हैं, संसार से और एक्शन होते हैं, उससे और संस्कार बनते हैं, उससे और राग द्वेष बढ़ता है, उससे और पाप पुण्य बनता है. जब तक ये पाप पुण्य की सर्कल चलती रहेगी, तब तक संसार चक्र चलते रहेगा. हम लोगों को कोई रिस्पाइट मिलने वाला नहीं है, हम लोगों को कभी शांति मिलने वाली नहीं है, क्योंकि अगर इसी ढंग से ये संसार चक्र चलते रहेगा. और ये क्यों कर रहे हैं? क्योंकि अविद्या है. और अविद्या कैसी? अविद्या बोलती है कि ये प्लेजर लेने में ही असली मजा है, मुझे ये प्लेजर लेना है, मुझे ये एंजॉय करना है, क्योंकि इसमें ही मेरा भला है, इससे ही मेरा, मुझे यही चाहिए. यही अविद्या है. तो अविद्या जो है इस चक्र को, इट इज एट द एक्सेल, वो चलते रहता है, चक्का चलते रहता है, संसार का चक्र चलते रहता है. इसी चीज को गौतम बुद्ध ने क्या कहा, और भी डिटेल में जाके गौतम बुद्ध ने कहा प्रतीत्य समुत्पाद, जो 12, द लॉ ऑफ द डिपेंडेंट ओरिजिन, जो हम लोगों ने पहले देखा है. whenever we had talked about dhamma, we had discussed it earlier also. When Buddha says dhammam sharanam gacchami, it is not any particular religion, it is not Buddhism, it is not any religion. What Buddha says, understand the rule of the world, understand the law of nature, and take refuge in the law of nature. So if you take refuge in the law of nature, then you can break the cycle of birth and death. ये जो संसार चक्र चल रहा है, ये जो भव चक्र चल रहा है, ये भव चक्र को तोड़ने के लिए क्या जरूरी है कि you have to escape from it. And as long as you are indulging, as long as this avidya is there, we will go on indulging. So he has very beautifully analyzed the whole thing, and this law or this dhamma is what Gautam Buddha talks about when say dhammam sharanam gacchami. So buddham sharanam gacchami, I seek refuge in enlightenment, I seek enlightenment, I want to become Buddha. That is the first thing. So I take refuge in Buddha. so that I can. Buddha was a very ordinary individual and he became Buddha. So he paved the way for every individual to become Buddha. Buddha says, if I can do it, you can also do it. So everybody has to, desire. Everybody has to create this desire that Buddham Sharanam Gacchami. मैं बुद्ध की शरण में जा रहा हूँ. अभी बुद्ध की शरण में जा रहा हूँ इसका मतलब नहीं दैट बुद्ध उसकी शरण में जा रहे हैं. बुद्धत्व की शरण में जा रहा हूँ. दैट मीन्स आई वांट टू बी एनलाइटेंड. आई वांट टू बिकम फ्री फ्रॉम दिस संसार चक्र. तो इसीलिए बुद्धम शरणम गच्छ संगम शरणम गच्छामि. We are social beings. We cannot live without each other. We have to depend on each other and we have to support each other. So even in spiritual pursuits, we have to help each other. That is why it says that if the help is there, if people are of the like-minded kind, if people, that is why we have satsang. You see, other really like in our Hindu religion, they don't talk about sangam, but they do talk about satsang. सत्संग करो, साधुओं की बातें सुनो, श्रवण करो, मनन करो. तो ये श्रवण जो सत्संग करते हैं वो भी संग ही है. संगम शरणम गच्छामि. जो लाइक माइंडेड है, जो स्पिरिचुअल माइंडेड है, उनके साथ में जाके समय बिताओ, उनके साथ में बातें करो. So that your desire for upliftment, your desire for mukti, desire for buddhatva will go on increasing because of the sangha. And finally he says dhammam sharanam gacchami. What is that dhamma? That dhamma is if we indiscriminately we are using our senses and we are creating desires, we are always going to be miserable. That is the message. So understand the law of nature. Law of nature is telling you that don't be aviveki, don't be indiscriminate. Use your mind, use your buddhi, become Buddha and then discriminate. So he has given this law and he has found this law. He has not given us, it is there already. It was there and it is going to be there. And this is the Dhamma Parivartan, or this is the Dhamma Pravartan they talk about. And one has to understand this. So he has analyzed very beautifully what Sansar Chakra we talked about. He talks it in terms of Pratitya Samutpat. Or in Southeast Asian countries, you'll find they call law of Ida Pachyata. They often talk about it. So in that, the very first thing is what Gautam Buddha says, संसार में दुख है, अपने जीवन को देखो. ठीक है, थोड़ा इंडल्ज करते हैं, थोड़ी खुशी आती है, वो कभी कभी खुशी आती है, वो भी हमारे एपेटाइट को बढ़ाने के लिए, हमारे राग को बढ़ाने के लिए आती है. और एक बार जब राग बढ़ जाता है, जब डिजायर बहुत तीव्र हो जाती है, तब दुख आना चालू हो जाता है. तो ये जो सुख में है उसमें भी दुख छिपा हुआ है. तो हर जगह पे दुख है. इसीलिए उनका जो पहला सत्य है, आर्य सत्य है, वो सर्वम दुखम. सो ही सेज देयर इज पेन, देयर इज दुख, एंड दुख डिपेंड्स ऑन, बिकॉज वी आर born, so there is दुख. Had we not been born, then there will be no dukkha. We are born because we are born, so there is a dukkha. So why we are born? Because that bhava chakra is there. We are part of that bhava chakra. We want to become like this. There is a desire for this. So the bhava is there, third factor. And then fourth factor is upadan. And then there is desire, tanha. Tanha is called desire. There is a desire. And there is vedana, sensations. I like it, I dislike it, I hate it. It is pleasant, it is unpleasant. This is vedana. And before vedana, the important thing, the very important step is phassa. Phassa is the most important, the point of contact. So this is where Pratyahara comes in. Buddha says when you are looking at the object, before it can make you feel itself, cut down the contact. That is what yoga is saying. Pratyahara matlab रोक दो मन को, मन को रोक दो. बुद्धा भी वही बोल रहा है कि अभी सामने कोई चीज देखा, तुम उसको गौर से देखोगे तो डिजायर उत्पन्न होगी, और उसको एक्सपीरियंस करोगे तो उसके साथ में वेदना उत्पन्न होगी. वेदना का फॉर्म क्या रहता है? फीलिंग्स. See, whenever we are looking at some object, if we are really looking at that object or perceiving that object, all five senses, all five sense organs are involved. Whether it is sound or a touch or smell or taste or form. जैसे ही हम किसी भी सेंसेशन का अनुभव करेंगे, immediately there will be a feeling, I like it. Or there will be a feeling, I hate it, I dislike it. It's not pleasant. इनमें से दोनों में से कोई ना कोई चीज होगी. इसको कहते हैं वेदना. और वेदना हो गई इसका मतलब आइदर वी आर कॉट, वेदना के लेवल पे उसको लेके गए तो वी आर कॉट, बिकॉज देन वी विल आइदर लाइक इट और वी विल डिसलाइक इट। तो राग और द्वेष तैयार हो गया, तो एस्केप नहीं कर सकते वेदना के लेवल पे। इसलिए वो बोलते हैं कि डोंट अलाउ इट द कॉन्टेक्ट टू गो डीप, स्टॉप। So again in Buddhism also this is a very important practice. Pratyahara is very important because of lots of similarity between what Buddha is saying and what Patanjali is saying. I just told you about Pratitya Samutpad. So from Vedana, first is there. Before first the senses are there. So Ayatan is referring to the five sense organs which Sutra is talking about. So five Gyanendriyas and Manas is the Shashti Indriya. So Shadayatan, they call it Ayatan. And Ayatan is because of the Nama Rupa. Nama Rupa is because of the consciousness or the knowledge, or and the consciousness is because of the sanskara, and sanskara is there because of the avidya. So beginning from avidya to dukkha, there is a 12-spoke wheel, bhavachakra, the law of pratitya samutpad. We can analyze it, we can understand it. So there also they have talked about it. And then you'll find Bhagavad Gita in chapter 2. It talks about cutting down the sensations or stopping the indriyas to indulge in the vishayas. So there the words are also, same words are used. So in chapter 2, there are two shlokas which talk about when a person is freely indulging into the sense perceptions and enjoying the sensory stimuli, then what happens to that individual? That has been beautifully described in these two shlokas of Bhagavad Gita in chapter 2. So the sutra reads, Dhyayato Vishyan Punsah Sangaste Shupajayate Sangat Sanjayate Kamah Kamat Krodha Vijayate Krodhat Bhavati Sammoha Sammohat Smriti Vibhrama Smriti Bhrashad Buddhi Nasho Buddhi Nashat Pranashyat। तो जो आदमी बार बार विषयों का चिंतन करते रहता है, जो आदमी हमेशा सेंस ऑब्जेक्ट्स के बारे में सोचते रहता है, प्लेजर्स के बारे में सोचते रहता है, प्लेजर्स के पीछे दौड़ते रहता है, उस आदमी में उन विषयों के प्रति मोह उत्पन्न होता है, लगाव उत्पन्न होता है, राग उत्पन्न होता है। तो ध्यायतो विषयान पुस्स संगस्ते शूपजायते, संग उसका संग उत्पन्न होता है या उसके साथ में अटैचमेंट भी होता है। संगात संजायते काम, काम उत्पन्न होता है। देयर इज अ स्ट्रॉन्ग डिजायर टू फुलफिल, एंड when this desire is there, sangat sanjayate kama kamat krodha vijayate. Now this is a common knowledge for all of us. We have many desires, but we cannot fulfill all those desires. There will be obstacles in the path of fulfilling those desires, and whenever there are obstacles we get angry. Forget about fulfilling the so-called those objects for which we are craving. Even ordinary level, you are walking on the road and somebody comes in front of you. He has stopped you from walking, you get angry. In car driving, when somebody is cutting the lane, somebody comes in front of you suddenly, and even if the most decent person is there, suddenly he will shout and he will abuse. अंधा है क्या, दिखाई नहीं देता यार, ही में गाली देगा वो, क्योंकि you see such a simple thing, you are going in some direction and you are being stopped or you are being prevented, immediately the anger comes. So imagine if this is happening in most ordinary things, what will happen when we have deepest kind of cravings and deeper aspirations for things, and those are not being fulfilled? What kind of effect it will have on the mind? So क्रोधा भी जाए थे, क्रोध आता है तो मोह आ जाता है, मोह आता है तो पूरी, मतलब आगे जाके ये कहा है कि अल्टीमेटली बुद्धि का नाश हो जाता है, और बुद्धि का नाश होने के बाद में प्राणी का नाश हो जाता है। So this in two shlokas are very beautifully explaining why Pratyahara becomes necessary for a yoga student. Because ultimately chapter 2 is Sankhya Yoga Nama Dvitiyo Adhyaya. It's talking about Sankhya, and both the yogas are mentioned there. The Jnana Yoga is also there and the Karma Yoga is also there. So at the end of that chapter, Krishna is saying this, that you have to be very careful about indulging into these Vishayas. Because Vishayas can affect the mind. They have their own impact on the mind. So one has to be really thoughtful. Now, all said and done, just because discuss कर लिया करके हम उसको रोक सकते हैं? नहीं, बिल्कुल नहीं. आगे कृष्ण को अर्जुन वही पूछता है, आप तो बोलते हैं मन को कंट्रोल करने की बात, लेकिन क्या इतना आसान थोड़ी है? बहुत मन तो बहुत, तो भगवान तभी आगे बोलते हैं, हाँ, इट इज लाइक इम्पॉसिबल थिंग, इट इज वेरी डिफिकल्ट, बट देन थ्रू अभ्यास एंड वैराग्य यू कैन डू इट. What does that mean? If you are interested, if you have that kind of desire, if you are really committed to the self-development, if you are really committed to spiritual upliftment, then you can do it with the help of Abhyasa and Vairagya. Now, Krishna also uses the word Abhyasa Vairagya. Patanjali has already told us in chapter 1, Abhyasa Vairagya Abhyam Tannirodha. वृत्तियों का कंट्रोल कैसे करेंगे? अभ्यास और वैराग्य के द्वारा करेंगे. सेम चीज जब अर्जुन पूछता है कि मन को कंट्रोल करना तो बहुत हवा को कंट्रोल करने जैसा है, वो तो बहुत ही मुश्किल है. तो बोला बिल्कुल मुश्किल है, लेकिन अभ्यास और वैराग्य से कंट्रोल कर सकते हैं. लेकिन अगेन बैक टू स्क्वायर वन, अभ्यास कौन करेगा? जिसमें ये चाह है, जिसमें ये डिजायर है कि मुझ में इम्प्रूवमेंट आना चाहिए, या आई वॉन्ट टू गो इन अ सर्टेन डायरेक्शन. तो ये प्रत्याहार भी जब इंटेंशनली किया जाएगा, right motivation is there, then pratyahara can become successful. Otherwise, forcible things, they are helpful to a certain extent. When we are not able to do it willingly and voluntarily, then maybe sometimes enforcement is helpful. कभी हम लोग तप करते हैं, उपवास करते हैं, तो there is a craving to eat, but we are stopping ourselves. To that extent, our willpower gets strengthened. To that extent, we feel strong. So that advantage definitely is there. But the better advantage would be then we do it when we do it with a lot of understanding. That is the point. If there are questions, today is the concluding session for chapter 2. So
Niranjan, is it possible to take one more session on Pratyahara? Pratyahara is so बहुत गहराई है उसमें.
पर करीब करीब जो मुझे बोलना था वो सब मैं आज कवर कर लिया. मैं जो कुछ सोच सकता था, मैं जो कुछ बोल सकता था, शेयर कर सकता था, वो सब तो बोल दिया. पर ऐसा कोई स्पेसिफिक एरिया है तो वी कैन हैव कोई स्पेसिफिक एरिया जहाँ पे डिफिकल्टी महसूस हो रही है, जहाँ पे कुछ क्लैरिफिकेशन चाहिए, तो देन वी कैन गो इनटू डिटेल. बट अदरवाइज मोस्ट ऑफ द पॉइंट्स आई थिंक आई हैव कवर्ड इन डिटेल. And if there is a particular area which we need to look into, even we can do, see, although class may not be there, but group is always open. We can have a discussion there. We can go into the details. There we can try and we can discuss if any practical difficulties are there.
तो निरंजन जो ये बोलते हैं कि not to go to extreme and follow the middle path, the path of moderation.
Yeah.
So what have you to say about it? Like whether it is whether it is enjoying the sensual things or whether it is
now if we go according to Patanjali's standards, Dr. Jayadev's standards, if we go according to Buddha's standards, if we go according to Jagishevia's standards, then if we hear somebody saying this, that middle path is desirable, middle path, the significance of middle path is what? The significance of middle path is that it should not cause any pathological disturbance in the personality. Some people may carry this control idea to such an extent that they become a mental rake and they may lose their mental balance. That should not occur. That is why middle path is required. But at the same time, when a very healthy individual, a very right thinking kind of individual, he has a desire to indulge and he says that, oh, no, I am a follower of middle path, then that will be a self-deception. So here, who can decide whether he is doing right thing or wrong thing? The person himself, because he will be aware for what reason he is saying that he wants to indulge. But as long as we have not gained strength, as Anuvrata is there, even in case of yamas, Patanjali has provided sufficient safety walls. So here also safety walls are there. Unless we have that kind of vairagya where we can, like you last time said, and earlier also you had mentioned, when we have got a test of higher thing, the lesser thing will automatically drop. So we have to work, if very consciously, till the extent that we develop that kind of level of understanding where automatically this drops. To that extent तो we have to exert ourselves. पर ये मिडिल पाथ इसीलिए बोला जाता है कि क्योंकि हर चीज में दो एक्सट्रीम रहते हैं. और मराठी में कहावत है अति तिथे माती. संस्कृत में कहावत है अति सर्वत्र वर्जय. अति सर्वत्र वर्जय. अति का वर्जन, क्योंकि अति की वजह से बहुत नुकसान होता है आदमी को. तो कोई भी चीज को एक्सट्रीम में नहीं ले जाना है. उस हिसाब से बोलते हैं कि मिडिल पाथ. आसन भी करने हैं तो अभी कल आसन सीखा, आज पद्मासन में आधा घंटा बैठ गए तो क्या नतीजा होगा? फिर एक महीना आसन नहीं कर पाएंगे क्योंकि इंजरी हो जाएगी.
डॉक्टर मामतोरा को दिखाना पड़ेगा.
हाँ, डॉक्टर ममतोरा के पास जाना पड़ेगा. वो परिस्थिति नहीं आना चाहिए, इसीलिए मिडिल पाथ है. तो मिडिल पाथ का अर्थ आदमी को खुद ही मालूम पड़ेगा कि वो मिडिल पाथ का बहाना कर रहा है या एक्चुअली ही मीन्स दैट. because ultimately it is for the individual to decide whether he is really sincere in whatever he is pursuing. दूसरा कोई आदमी बोल नहीं सकता है, दूसरा आदमी कोई भी गाइड भी नहीं कर सकता. अभी पतंजलि ने ये बता दिया, ऐसी स्थिति है, अपने को हर एक को अपना निर्णय लेना है क्या, टू व्हाट एक्सटेंट वी हैव टू गो, डिपेंडिंग ऑन आवर, we know where we stand, we know what are our weaknesses, we know what our cravings are. We are all in the same boat.
The Ranjit sir, I wanted to ask one thing, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, in my own family, I had an uncle who was regularly going when Sri Yogendra ji was there. He was highly disciplined, sir. I have never seen someone as disciplined as him, but for Dr. Jaydev ji. But sir, he had ego.
Yeah.
What does that conquer, sir? Means आप sensory organs को तो conquer कर लिए, लेकिन I'm not saying he was very egoistic, but there were shades of ego which were, apparent at times.
See, shades of ego are going to remain till the end. See, in Patanjali Yoga Sutra, again and again they have pointed out. So when the Siddhis chapter comes, in Siddhi chapter, in Sutra 37, they talked about that these Siddhis are obstacle. And then later on in Sutra 53, 52, 53, you will find that they say that when yogi has attained total disinterestedness, he has attained the highest kind of powers, and he is as good as if he is God. At that time also he might be tempted. So he'll be tempted in the form of some devas will come and they will say, you are such a great yogi. We appreciate you. Kindly accept our invitation. Come to us, meet us, talk to us. Or, the apsaras may appear and they say, you are such a great yogi and you are like God. So this kind of temptations will come. And they say that in case of Gautam Buddha, that was the last battle which was fought. So when he was about to get enlightened, that is the time the severest kind of attack was made by Maya. जिसको हम संस्कृत में हिंदी में माया बोलते हैं. वो माया ने एकदम अल्टीमेट अटैक बुद्ध के ऊपर किया. जब उसको भी बुद्ध ने जीत लिया, then he became बुद्ध. तो ये टिल द एंड ये ईगो का जो इश्यू है ये बना रहता है. तो इसमें यही कर सकते हैं, जितनी मात्रा में समझ सके उतनी मात्रा में. और ये तो कब से हम लोग बचपन से अपने ईगो कॉन्शियसनेस के साथ काम कर रहे हैं. इट इज नॉट इजी टू गेट रिड ऑफ इट. बार बार वो ऊपर उठाएगा. स्वामी धर्ममेकारण्य ने एक जगह पे बहुत ब्यूटीफुल बात कहा है ईगो के बारे में, which shows that how difficult it is to really shed the ego or become free from ego or even maintain awareness that now I am being affected by ego and let me do something about it. इस प्रकार की अवेयरनेस भी बहुत कम लोगों में आ पाती है. तो उन्होंने एक एग्जाम्पल दिया है, और ये वर्ड जो है ये बहुत महत्वपूर्ण व्यक्ति के, स्वामी धर्ममेकारण्य के हैं. वो क्या बोलते हैं कि मैंने ऐसे भी लोग देखे हैं, ऐसे भी साधु देखे हैं जिन्होंने जिंदगी भर और कुछ नहीं वापरा सिर्फ एक लंगोट के सिवा। उनका जो अंडरगारमेंट है उसके अलावा उनके पास कुछ नहीं है, पूरा जिंदगी उसमें निकाल दिया उन्होंने। लेकिन ऐसे व्यक्ति भी जब किसी सभा में जाते हैं तो उनको अगर मान का स्थान नहीं दिया तो वो गुस्सा हो जाते हैं। देखो कितना त्याग है लोग के पास, तो सभी चीजें हैं, हम लोग सब लाइफ एंजॉय कर रहे हैं, कार में घूम रहे हैं, खाना पीना खा रहे हैं, लग्जरी फ्लैट में रह रहे हैं, सब कुछ आराम से कर रहे हैं। एंड वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट वैराग्य, वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट ईगो, ये तो एक बात हो गई। लेकिन ऐसे व्यक्ति जिसने पूरा संसार छोड़ दिया है और पूरा जिंदगी लंगोट पे निकाल दिया, ऐसे व्यक्ति में भी ईगो आ सकता है अगर उनको मान सम्मान नहीं मिला। उनको ये रहता है कि मैं इतना बड़ा योग हूँ, मैंने संसार का त्याग कर दिया, मैंने पूरे जीवन एक कपड़े पे निकाल दिया, लोगों ने मेरा सम्मान करना चाहिए, लोगों ने मुझे आदर देना चाहिए। ये भावना जब आ जाती है तो सच सच पीपल आर आल्सो नॉट फ्री फ्रॉम ईगो। तो बहुत ही मतलब ये बहुत ही डिफिकल्ट चीज है। तो ये होते रहेगा, सभी के साथ होता रहेगा। मतलब हम लोग कितना भी बोले तो ये ईगो तो आते रहेगा। कभी ज्ञान का ईगो रहेगा, कभी वैराग्य का ईगो रहेगा। जब हमने कोई चीज छोड़ी रहती है उसका भी ईगो आता है, और कुछ जान लिया रहता है तो उसका भी ईगो आता है, ज्ञान का भी ईगो रहता है।
Once Dr. Jaydev ji
Dr.
had said in a
Jaydev used to
Parisamvad. Sorry,
Yeah.
sorry, Prem. Sorry,
Dr.
Prem.
Jaydev used to give that example, no, of that साधु meditating under the tree, जिसने वो बगुले ऊपर पेड़ के फाइट कर
हाँ।
रहे थे, तो एक कटाक्ष से ऊपर देख के उनको जला दिया था।
हाँ,
मतलब उसमें भी वो अहंकार बहुत कूट कूट के भरा होता। और
या
दूसरा वो योगी का एग्जाम्पल था कि वो जो कहीं एक विलेज में एक छोटे से घर में रहता था, तो बहुत सालों से बाहर नहीं निकला था। So the young children, they decided to play a prank. So one smart Alex said, "Arey, you all have not seen him, na? I will call him out in one moment." So he pelted stones at the window panes, and that man came out, and he was hurling abuses, and people hadn't seen him for years.
हाँ,
His tapasya got bhang, तो उसका संयम छूट गया।
हो गया।
सर ये व्यासा के 5 पॉइंट एक थोड़ा सा फिर से एक बार जस्ट एक एक तो अटैचमेंट नहीं होना चाहिए, दूसरा जो स्क्रिप्चर्स में जो परमिसिबल है उतना इंडल्ज कर सकते हैं।
द्वेष को नहीं बढ़ाना चाहिए,
हाँ
द्वेषों को नहीं बढ़ाना चाहिए, राग द्वेष को नहीं बढ़ाना चाहिए। और विलिंगली, मतलब जब भी मेरी मर्जी होगी तभी आई इंडल्ज, एंड इन दैट देयर इज नो हार्म इफ आई एम कॉन्शियसली वॉलंटरीली इंडल्जिंग। और पांचवा जैगी शेविया का है कि इट हैज टू बी आउट ऑफ डिसइंटरेस्टेड। या इसमें 55 सूत्र में डिटेल में दिया हुआ है, यू कैन जस्ट टेक इट फ्रॉम देयर।
ओके सर, थैंक यू, a wonderful journey, साधन पाद अगेन, मजा आया बहुत ही। नाउ आप जाने वाले हैं, सो whenever you say we are ready again for the
या लेट्स सी
next journey. Yes.
निरंजन, बहुत सीरियस सीरियस बात हो गई।
हाँ
ये एक शायरी है।
हाँ, बोल बोल।
रोज 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 वजन क्या चेक करना,
हाँ
रोज रोज वजन क्या चेक करना, एक दिन तो है सबको मरना। कुछ वाह वाह बोलो यार।
हाँ बोलो बोलो।
4 दिन की जिंदगी है,
हाँ
4 दिन की जिंदगी है, खा लो जी भर के।
हाँ,
अगले जन्म तो फिर से 3 किलो से ही शुरू करना।
बराबर। तो ये पता नहीं कितने बार 3 किलो से शुरू किया है, तो एंडलेसली चल रहा है। तो और कितना इंटरेस्ट है उतना चलेगा। अपन जब तक अपन इंटरेस्टेड है 3 किलो से शुरू करते रहेंगे। कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है।
सर इसमें एक जोक बोलो सर। से एक व्यक्ति बहुत योगा में एकदम तपा हुआ आदमी होता है, 100 साल तक जीता, उसके उसके ऊपर जी के बाद में स्वर्ग में जाता है।
हाँ
वहां जाके सर खूब रोता है। वो पूछते क्यों रो रहा है? यार ये योग के चक्कर में पड़ गया, नहीं तो पहले ही मर जाता, सारी अप्सराएं मुझे मिल जाती।
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
sir,
Thank
really.
you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All the
Thank
best,
you.
everyone.
So we are
Thank you,
looking
sir.
forward
Thank
to
you,
the,
sir. Wish you the
we
same,
are
sir.
looking forward
Thank
to the
you.
next session, sir, from you.
Yes.
Sir,
Yes,
we are
sir.
looking forward, all of us, to the next
Yes.
session from you, sir.
Let's see. Let's
Something
see.
Yes,
simple,
sir.
sir. Some practical asanas, pranayams, whatever you believe is good, so that we can be in touch and with you and take your guidance. It will be highly appreciated, sir. Jitna sooner the better, sir. Don't keep a too-long gap, please.
Yeah, let's see.
Yeah, please.
Yes, sure, sure.
Thank you again. Thank you.
Thank you.
thank
Thank
you.
you, everyone.
Thank you,
Thank you,
sir.
everyone.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.